Today I have my thinking cap on. The weather in Kathmandu is quite pleasant. The sun has been shining quite generously and I'm happy. This thinking hoodie and the sun, they have triggered a bit of thinking. I don't usually think, you know, because to think is to just kind of go mad. To think is to just cause yourself pain and suffering and whatnot. But some headlines had me thinking today. Call me an amateur thinker, a half baked thinker, if you will. The first headline was that this Adani Group's interest in managing airports and building airports in Nepal. The NDTV, which now belongs to the Gautam Adani's group, it had a news report that stated, quoting Nepal's finance minister Prakash Saran Mahat, that the conglomerate is interested in building an airport near the Nepal-India border that most probably is in Nisgad and operating a number of airports in this small country. Per the report, the group, the conglomerate, wants to operate the Tribhuvan International Airport, the Gautam Buddha International Airport, and the Pokhara Regional International Airport. Let me just present a brief background. The Gautam Buddha International Airport, this project has not really taken off. This escalating tensions between India and China, Nepal's giant neighbors, has taken its toll on the airport, its operation rather. The Gautam Buddha International Airport in Bhairahava is named after Gautam Buddha. Lumbini is the birthplace of Gautam Buddha and several other lesser Buddhas. This airport has Chinese investment and also investments from multilateral donor agencies like the Asian Development Bank. But you know what? This project has not, this airport remains in limbo. What is the reason? The escalating tensions between China and India. India is quite hostile toward any project in Nepal that has Chinese aspect to it, Chinese investment, if you will. So this airport remains stuck. It's like the project has failed to take off. India has not heeded to Nepal's repeated requests to grant it this air route for this full operation, optimum operationalization of the Gautam Buddha International Airport. The same is no different, in fact, is the case with the Pokhara Regional International Airport. This was also built with investment from China. So naturally, the Indian state is quite hostile toward this project also. So it has remained idle. This huge investment undertaking has remained idle because of hostilities between Nepal's two neighbors, India and China. As for the Nijgarh International Airport, it has not yet just the construction work, even the construction work has not begun. So, a twist in the story is that the all powerful Adani Group wants these projects. It even wants to run the Tribhuvan International Airport in Kathmandu, apart from the Gautam Buddha International Airport, as well as the Pokhara Regional International Airport, and not to mention, it also wants to construct that international airport, another international airport in this country at Nizgad of Bara, and it wants to operate all these vital infrastructure. What is the message that the Indian establishment and the Adani group have been trying to send? What is the message that they have been trying to drive home? Is that Nepal cannot run without Indian consent. Nepal cannot run without undermining Indian interests even a bit, even if it comes at the expense of Nepal's core interests. So be it, but it can never undermine India's interests. This makes India more powerful in Nepal than the government itself. That is the point. This expression of interest, this informal expression of interest to run Nepal's vital airports and just invest in hydropower projects came from Gautam Adani during the vibrant Gujarat summit. Nepal's finance minister Prakash Saran Mahat was there, was in Gujarat to attend that summit. But with these projects, if these projects uh, go under the Indian grip, if India just gets hold of these projects, perhaps India will rise and shine further, but at the expense of Nepal and the Nepalese. We have no objection to India rising and shining, but not at the cost of Nepal. That is the point, because these are our infrastructure, these are our assets. So our government and our peoples should be at their helm. That is what we maintain all along. But a subservient government is in place in Kathmandu. Government of all shades and hues have been subservient, quite subservient to Indian interests. This government has been like very subservient when it comes to solving Indian interests at the expense of Nepal. That is the objection. So, subsequently, after this expression of interest from Adani, What did the government of Nepal do? Let's check. The government, subservient and comfortable, it wants to be very comfortable for India. It wants to be very accommodative to Indian interests. That's why this government has formed a study team, a high level study team, if you will, to just operate international airports under what it calls PPP model. You know what that is, most probably, but let me just uh, explain it a bit. This is what you call public private partnership model. The government of Nepal is at the helm of all airports within the country, whether it's the Tribhuvan International Airport, whether it's some airports located in some remote corners of the country, whether it's in Pokhara, Bhairahaba, Nijgarh, or wherever. The government, these airports are obviously under the government. It is apparent, isn't it? Because these are very vital infrastructure, security sensitive infrastructure. So it is natural that they should be under the government control. But after uh, Adani's remarks, the government has been more than willing to accommodate his interests in Nepal. That's why it has formed a study team to run international airports in particular under this private public partnership model. So it is quite obvious, isn't it, that this commission, this uh, study team will come up with a report towing the government's line, won't it? That means these vital projects, these airports are like quite sensitive in terms of national defense and security, aren't they? So the government seems bent on handing over these vital infrastructure to a foreign company at the expense of Nepal's core interests. A brief background will just help us tie the loose ends, I guess. The Tribhuvan International Airport has been in the news of late for quite some time, whether it's in the case of smuggling of 60 kg of gold through that highly sensitive area, whether it's other gold smuggling cases happening recently in collusion, of course, with the political leadership of the country, because without their consent such contraband stuffs cannot make it through the highly sensitive and secured international airport. It cannot just be a conduit for trafficking, for smuggling of all those contrabands without uh, a nod, formal, informal rather, without a nod from the highest political leadership. It's a given, isn't it? Then the recent scuffle between uh, police officials and immigration officials at the international airport uh, itself. So this is like what along this is these are like some short snaps in a long plot to just malign the international airport, to just project a bad image of the country to the international community, and just make way for controversial arrangements like the handover of the management of international airports to a foreign company. It has always, all along, it appears, this has been in the making. And these incidents are but just a small bits and pieces of that mega plot to just hand over the security of a vital infrastructure like Nepal's international airports to a company, to a foreign company. You know whose interest will this move serve? It's obvious, isn't it? A couple of questions arise, but I'll just take one or two in this presentation. What is a country? What is a country for a reigning government? What is a country for Nepal's political elites in particular? Is it just a piece of is it just a piece of real estate to be just handed over to whoever it pleases? Is it just an asset to be sold and brought and dealt with? What is it, in fact? Does the government not have some responsibility toward these infrastructure? Do they not have some responsibility toward this country? What does national security mean for the ruling elites of Nepal? Does it only mean security of the people on the higher echelons, those in the corridors of power, those that are near and dear and near to the political elites? What about the people? What about the taxpayer? What about the core interests of a country? What about national sovereignty? Will this handover of the management of international airports to a foreign company, will it not have negative bearings on Nepal's national defense and security? Will it not further compromise Nepal's national security and national sovereignty? These are the questions. These are the questions that are like that beacon some serious answer from the government. But the government always busy, always preoccupied with accommodating the powerful interests, foreign interests in particular, is least bothered about these questions. It is least bothered when it comes to being accountable to the electorate, to the people, to future generations. So it's a very concerning scenario. A government that is not at all sensitive towards national defense, national security. It is not at all serious about the protection of core national interests. But then, frankly speaking, you get what you deserve, don't you? Or we deserve someone better. Just I request you to think through the questions I have raised. I request the Nepali people to put the country above all else. I request the people to be like, to not take the politicians at their face value. I request you to just remain vigilant, alert as to the designs of this government or government of any hue and color, because in a democracy the people should protect a country from their leaders, from their government. With this remark, I wrap up this edition of Soft Talk. Request you to subscribe to this channel, comment on our presentation, and press that like button if it means an awful lot to us. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening.